Oh God, I'm pissed on her behalf. I'm like, holy shit. Like, this spoiled little brat is ruining my special birthday. It's holding on to the grudge like it happened yesterday. I told her she needs to let it go, but she seems really stuck on it. Bro, I'm sorry. I'm not on your side, though. Like, she doesn't owe you anything either. You know, if she's holding on to this grudge and she, like, specifically doesn't like you, she doesn't have to help you out with anything. She's not obligated to do so. Okay, so the reason I wanted to read this one is because I know 100% I feel like Reddit's really gonna... I feel like they're really gonna get this one wrong. Am I the asshole for pressing charges even though my parents offered to pay me back the money my sister stole within 24 hours? Parents offered to pay me back. My 24 female sister, 26 female, called me and asked me if she could stay the week because she missed me and we're both free. I said yes because I did miss her. We're both college students. She's in her final year and I'm in my second year. We live in different states. My sister came down and slept on my couch as I have a one-bedroom apartment. Monday and Tuesday was great. We went out together, did some shopping, and had some sisterly time. Wednesday came and I had to go to work. I asked her if she's all right staying in the apartment by herself, and she said yes. Whilst on my lunch break, I was searching for my credit card. My backpack has a specific section that's hidden away where I put my valuables in, such as my cell phone, wallet, and keys, etc. I searched and my wallet wasn't there. I texted my sister and asked if she'd seen my wallet. She replied no and said she'd look for it. I have Apple Pay so I could still purchase some lunch. I got home. She said she found it on top of my sock drawer. I was suspicious as I went in there yesterday morning and I knew it wasn't in there. Okay. When I got home, I logged into online banking. I saw a total of $1,545.32. Yes, we need this exact number. Been withdrawn across two accounts. I had strong suspicions that it was my sister. No way. That's crazy. Told her I'm calling the police as someone's withdrawn money from my accounts. It didn't take long for her to confess that she took my wallet and used the money. Just because you told her you're calling the police? Okay. My sister is a golden child who never in trouble. I was sick and tired of her getting away with everything. Not only that, it's money I can't afford to lose. Can I ask how she was able to just withdraw that amount of money? Because I'm thinking there's two ways to withdraw money. One way is specifically at an ATM, but if she goes to an ATM, she would need the... That's a large sum. Okay, here's what I'd... Yeah, it's a large sum to just withdraw from an ATM, and it's a weird sum as well. 32 cents? So I can't imagine her, like, going to an ATM, but even if she did, she would need a PIN number. That's a lot of cash across two accounts. She wouldn't have your PIN number for sure. The other way is possibly to just go to, like, the bank. And at the bank, it's still weird that she would do it across two accounts. But she might be able to do that. If she had your wallet, she would also have your ID. And it's possible she looks enough like you that she could just claim to be you. I don't know. Is that what she did? I'm very curious about how exactly she did that. The only other thing I can think of is she literally just did a transfer, and she would have to just transfer it to her account, in which case it would be really very obvious, it would become, like, if she did call the police, it would become obvious, like, who did it. It's like, well, it went to this account, so, and this account is owned by this person, so it's like, you follow the money. We'd be able to figure that out pretty easily. Anyways, that's probably, I guess, what she must have done, is to just, like, do a transfer. But how do you do that? How do you do a transfer? Because there's online banking, right? You go to online banking, it's really easy to make a transfer through the app. That's how I would do it. I'm like, can you transfer via, like, an ATM or via an actual bank? I don't know if you can do that. Like, that would be really suspicious if you went in and been like, hey, I'm trying to just transfer a bunch of money, like $1,500 from, like, my account to, like, this random other account. You might be able to do it. I don't know. My sister is a golden child who never in trouble. I was sick and tired of her getting away with everything. Not only that, it's money I can't afford to lose. Loose. I told her I'm calling the police and I want to press charges. My sister kept crying, screaming, and begging to not call the police as she would have my money in 24 hours' time. As I was speaking to the dispatcher on the phone, my sister was trying to grab the phone from my hand. After she failed, she ran to the room, called her parents, and whilst on the phone to 911, my parents were constantly trying to call me. As soon as I hanged up, within 1 second they called back. The dispatcher said they were sending a police officer out to my address. As I hanged up and waited for the dispatcher to arrive, I saw 30 missed calls from my parents. 30 missed calls? Damn, they called you a lot. Turned my phone off till the officer got here as they kept calling. The officer arrived and detained my sister. They took down my statement. I showed them my evidence. They said because she stole $1,500, it's a felony and they will be charging her. I called my parents after to explain the situation. They shouted at me down the phone telling me I shouldn't have called the police as they would have paid it back within an hour and that I've ruined her life. I mean, I'm on your side about it. Like, I don't really have too much sympathy for the sister. I'm like, it's kind of based, honestly. She, like, stole $1,500 from you, and she's, like, expecting no consequences because it's your sister. And then the sister literally calls the police. Like, she's not going to mess with you again after that, you know? Like, that's extreme. $1,500 is a lot to steal and, like, not even... I don't know. She did that secretly, and like I get I get why the parents would kind of be like, "Hey, like that's gonna be like really bad for her, so don't do this." But oh well. I don't know. Damn, that's crazy. But she deserves it. So I don't actually know anything about law, so I'm gonna look up something about felonies. A felony is a serious crime that can result in a prison sentence of more than 1 year or even the death penalty. The term felony is not uniform, with the federal defining it more strictly. The federal government defines a felony as a crime that can result in a punishment of more than 1 year in prison. Oh, damn. Okay, so she could go to jail for it. That's why they're worried about it. See, I feel like this is something maybe I should know, but I don't. So it says maybe. Maybe she'd have to go to jail for it. Is that, like, specifically because... Do you always go to jail for a felony? No, not every person convicted of a felony in the United States will automatically go to prison. This is just AI. I don't actually... I assume this is true, right? I don't know how this stuff... I don't know anything about this stuff, man. I don't know. I just trust this stuff now. It's probably true. A judge can sentence a convicted felon to probation or jail time instead of prison for less serious felonies or first-time offenses. For example, in Pennsylvania, first-time offenders may qualify for a pretrial diversion program that allows them to avoid jail time and have their arrest record cleared from their criminal record. Probation is a common way to avoid a sentence. It may include conditions like supervision by a probation agent, refraining from drug use, and maintaining employment. Oh. However, a convicted felon will likely face a lengthy prison sentence for violent crimes. Okay. It's not a violent crime, so it would probably be a light prison sentence, but possibly probation. So I actually can understand this perspective, because they're like, because it's a felony, they're probably gonna face, it's gonna be, I guess you would have to go on probation, specifically. Like, this is kind of a big deal, if she's gonna be charged with a felony. I don't know if that's anything you can, like... If you're like the victim of the crime, is it anything that you can like be like, oh no, actually, you know, maybe I don't want her to go to jail or whatever. Like, or is it just a done deal at the point where you like call the police and intervene? Is that a question I can ask Google? Can a victim drop felony charges? In general, victims cannot drop felony charges in criminal cases. The prosecutor's office has the authority to decide whether to drop charges. And this is fun. I'm learning. And they may consider factors like the victim's safety and cooperation. For example, in domestic violence cases, prosecutors may require a safety plan to be completed before a victim can... Okay, so that makes sense. So in like a domestic violence situation, you wouldn't want the victim to like call in and be like, hey, actually, I want to drop the charges. Like, you'd want to carry through with those charges for sure. Prosecutors may also... It's possible, though, if you go to the prosecutor's office, you may be able to, like, ask them or try to convince them. Yeah, okay. Victims can communicate their wishes to the prosecutor in writing, such as through a letter, affidavit, or statutory declaration. They can also attend in person to show their interest in having the charges dropped. Okay, that's super interesting. But, like, technically speaking, once you call the cops and she gets a felony charge, she's going to court for that. Like, absolutely. And she's facing prison time or probation. So this is really interesting because it's like, is that the extent to what, like, because I feel like if it were my sibling, and they tried to steal like $1,500 from me, I guess I would feel slightly different about it. You know, I'd be like if I were to call the cops on them, I would be like, I'd be like, okay, you deserve this. But I feel like I'd kind of regret it after the fact if they're like facing literal jail time and like, you know, like that is going to be a whole thing. It says with the probation though that they can get the criminal charge like expunged, I think, from the record if they take probation instead of, otherwise it like goes permanently on their criminal record, which can be a problem if you have I think, is that grand theft? Okay, so it'd be grand theft. I guess it's obviously all of this depends on the state, but it would be called grand theft because it's over $1,000 in basically every state. I guess it's saying like $1,500 is way over. Like it would definitely be considered grand theft. Otherwise, it would be petty theft, which is a misdemeanor. But this is a felony, serious crime. Damn. This is wild. I'm learning a bunch of like legal stuff. So this is how I feel about it. I understand wanting to do that. And I'm kind of like, obviously you're not the asshole. Obviously I'm like on your side about that. I guess perspective-wise, I think it's what you did, totally fine. You can't be blamed for it. I wouldn't blame you for it. I guess what I like to do, though, in these situations is kind of insert myself into it and be like, okay, well, how would I feel if I was doing that? I think I would regret it a little bit, but I guess it depends on how much you like your siblings. I would feel kind of bad about that because I feel like if I were to do that, I wouldn't fully understand the fact that that's going to be like a felony, like what that means, a felony charge. I don't think I would know. Now I do. I don't think I would have known in the moment, and I would have been like, oh, shit, like, that's actually real bad. Like, that's real bad for them. And it's just, it was, you know, I don't know. I guess that's just how I would personally feel, but to judge the situation, no, you're not the asshole. Like, she kind of had it coming. She deserves it. This is what happens when you steal, like, large amounts of money from people. You kind of had that coming. She did it to herself, really. I don't blame you. I can understand the parents kind of wanting to be like, man, if you just like let us pay this back, like, you know, like this is a really bad situation that we've found ourselves in. Obviously, they would want to try to like, you know, not, you know, they're trying to want to avoid the possibility of their daughter going to jail, probably. So it makes sense for them to want to do that, I think. My sister is a golden child who never got in trouble. Yeah, this is all like anecdotal stuff. I usually don't like, whenever I hear stuff like this in these posts, it always is like, that's your perspective, you know. It's always going to be your, like, it's very like dependent. It might not be completely true. A lot of people think this about their relationships with their siblings. So when I read something like this, I'm like, well, I don't know, like, the level of truthness. I just kind of have to take your word for it. But I usually don't, like, take something like this into account because there's no way for me to know that that's true. And I also feel like it doesn't really affect the situation at all, just the fact that the parents are coddling this child over the other child. It doesn't really change the situation, you know? Like, the situation is the same either way. So I don't really like these sorts of things because I feel like they're it's like you're trying to make me feel a certain way about it, like, you know, project myself into the situation, like, oh, maybe I had a sister or a brother, and they were always the golden child, and now I think much worse of this person, and I hate them. When in reality, it's just kind of like, doesn't really, affect the situation. In my experience, is probably not going to be the same as your experience, but, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that's just the first sentence that they're quoting. My sister kept crying. It's high time that your sister learns that actions have consequences. Sure. I don't necessarily disagree. I called my parents after to explain the situation. They shouted at me down the phone. Sister ruined her own life. Yeah, and your parents were complicit by never letting her face the consequences of her actions. Possibly. Maybe they did that. I don't know. In other words, she fucked around and got found out. I hope you get your money back. For sure she got her money back. Didn't they already say that? She said she was going to pay it back. But another thing about this, though, that I will also say is, like, when you involve the police in something like this, it does become a more serious crime. I think, like, there are, like, what are they called? Like, people's courts? What are these called? Yeah, so small claims dispute. Small claims court is a way to resolve disputes involving relatively small amounts of money. In Ohio, you can file a small claims case in Hamilton County if you believe someone owes you up to $6,000 and you are only seeking money. You can't ask for punitive damages, emotional distress, or to tell someone to do or stop doing something. Small claims court can't award divorces, restraining orders, or decisions about physical property. So this would probably be a better option because it's better, like, if you're purely interested in the money, you should take her to small claims court at the very worst, right? Because then you're just like, this is the dispute. She took this money. I just want the money back. I don't want to give her a felony charge. I don't want to do any of this other stuff. I don't want it to ruin her life over this. So I would say that's what you should do in the case where you, like, want to maintain some sort of relationship with your sister, or just kind of, like, I don't know. It's kind of an extreme thing where it's like, yeah, if your sibling, like, steals a massive amount of money and you're just like, well, give me the money back. It's like, are you even going to maintain that relationship very well anyways? Or even going to want to? I don't know. But this whole thing's very odd. I feel like this would have been the more sort of lighter option. Like, small claims court, by the way, what this is, it's the same thing as, like Judge Judy. This is the kind of stuff they do on, like, Judge Judy, right? It's a small claims court. It's like, you've got two people and they're like, well, this person owes me this amount of money. A small claims dispute, right? Or the people's court. That's what these are. That's why they're not, like, really extreme, like, court cases. They're just like these small claims disputes of people being like, well, they owed me this money. Although I will say, I don't know, because, like, if you go into that would be crazy, right? If you went into the small claims dispute and said, they literally took my card and, like, withdrew, like, this amount of money. Would that just, I don't know, actually, what would happen in that. Like, you would just win that court case, surely. It wouldn't be a very interesting case for the show, I'm sure. But, I don't know if they would just, like, even, what they would even do in that case. Would they try to be like, oh my gosh, that's way worse than, like, would they even accept the case? I wonder. Or would they be like, no, that's, like, way too serious for small claims? Because I'm sure there is, like, a line there, right? Where they're like, we're not going to accept that case because it's way too big for, like, small claims. Like, you should take that to the police. I wonder. I don't know. We can look it up. Hell, I'm having fun. Okay. Can you sue someone for theft in small claims court? I did not steal. Yes, but you'll have to provide proof that someone stole something. You will need to file a police report and send the police department a self-addressed stamped envelope and the fee for a certified copy. But if you do that, if you file a police report, couldn't they also possibly just take that person in because they committed a literal felony? I don't know how to search for this because I feel like these aren't really answering my question. Because these persons are saying, well, if you need to file a police report and then have like proof of that. And then it's also saying small claims court, but generally small claims court is for like landlord disputes and stuff like that, where it's kind of like, it's not like a flat, like an amount of money that was just literally stolen from a person. It's usually like kind of a vague something worth something, some amount of money, like that is owed to me, but you didn't get. I don't know how to search this exactly. Okay, maybe this is the closest thing I'm going to get to an answer. So I searched up this is not what I searched, but this is something I found. What happens after a police report is filed for theft? Most of the time, this guy says, most of the time, nothing. So the report will be forwarded to either a detective, or in case of a large department, a unit which deals in property crimes. Almost every police department of any size has numerous property theft complaints, sure. So they're saying investigating of it might be like $5,000 and they might not bother to investigate it. I think a police report, I guess, is different from calling the police about something, right? If I file a police report, it's kind of like, I guess that's a different thing? I'm not sure why, though. Is it? Is it a different thing? Because this is the problem I'm having here, is like, if you want to take somebody to small claims court over $1,500, and you, in order to do that, you have to file a police report and bring the police report to court, are the police going to investigate that crime, and are they going to just go pick up the sister anyways because she stole $1,500 and that's a felony crime? Like, that's a problem. If I want to take her to small claims court instead of the felony charge, how do you avoid the felony charge in that situation? I don't know. Maybe somebody in the comments knows the answer to that. It's not like changing my perspective on the situation at all. I'm just very curious about this. So yeah, if anybody knows. I mean, this person is, I don't know. The way this person is saying it sounds like maybe the police report is kind of like something that is less likely to be, it's less of a, it's not like calling the cops and saying, hey, come over here immediately, this person's stole from me. Instead, it's like, maybe investigate this if you feel like it. I don't know. I just saw this post while I was scrolling today, and I was like, I gotta weigh in on this one. So I've already read this one, but I'm gonna read it again in front of you guys. Am I the asshole for making fun of a friend who said that I discriminated against male doctors by being self-conscious in front of them as a girl? I, 18 female, recently ended up in the hospital because I woke up in the middle of the night with chest pains and difficulty breathing. I met up with my friends a few days ago, and they asked me how I was. I told them I'm feeling much better, but that I'm too embarrassed to go back to that hospital. It was a joke. They asked me why I was embarrassed. Explanation. Because it was the middle of the night, I was in my PJs, which consisted of a t-shirt, pajama shorts, and no bra. I was in so much pain I didn't care, but after the pain meds started to kick in, my brain started going, huh. I was in various stages of undress during my hospital stay, shirt pulled up so the very nice male nurse could put those sticky things on me for an ECG, and shirt fully off and transducer pushing on my left breast so the cardiologist could do a bedside echo. He saw how uncomfortable I was and tried to make me feel better, etc. Everyone was really professional and very nice, but I started feeling super self-conscious afterwards because at least 3 different men saw me without a bra on. One of my guy friends asked me if it had been a female doctor or nurse, if I would have felt self-conscious. I told him I would, but probably to a lesser extent. He then starts ranting about how that's unfair to the male doctors and nurses that tried to help me, so I shouldn't discriminate like that. He kept going on a tangent about how men in the medical field live in fear of their female patients, lodging complaints against them, and so on. At this point, I interrupt him and go, are you speaking from personal experience? We're still in school. Are you some sort of secret boy genius doctor? The rest of the group laughs after I said that, and he gets really quiet. Later on, he texts me to say he doesn't appreciate me making fun of him when he was trying to talk about a serious topic. He hasn't spoken to me since, so I'm wondering whether I should apologize for hurting his feelings. Okay, so the reason I wanted to read this one is because I know 100% I feel like Reddit's really gonna... I feel like they're really gonna get this one wrong, okay? Because I think the important part of this story is not any part of this hospital stay or any of that. But what it really comes down to here is you had a friend, and your friend like brings up this random point. Like, just ignore the context of the story. Just ignore whether or not you think he's like right or wrong about what he's saying. But this is a thought that he had. It's something he wanted to share, and it's something he felt somewhat passionate about. And she made fun of him. And then he reached out to her after the fact and said, "Hey, that's not really cool that you made fun of me, because this is like a topic that I'm serious about, that I'm, and it's just kind of messed up that you made fun of me for that." Okay, right? So that's what happened. Now, like, if we add the context to this, right? The context is she was telling a story that made him. A story that was like, oh, I felt uncomfortable because I was half naked and there were a bunch of male doctors around, and like that's totally fine to feel that way, or at least totally understandable that you would feel that way. And him kind of bringing up that topic is like, I get where bro's coming from, okay, but at the same time, I feel like it doesn't really invalidate her feelings at all. So it's kind of like, maybe something, it's kind of tangential to the story she's telling. He's like kind of projecting himself into that male doctor, position, and thinking to yourself, well, I would hate this if like, I'm doing my job and, there's going to be women in various states of undress. I would hate it if they all felt like I was felt uncomfortable around me while I was trying to do my job. Like I think it bothers him, and he's like, this is like a problem in the medical field. He might be right about that. I wouldn't like, that it's a problem in the medical field that like male doctors often feel a little uncomfortable or scared that they're going to get sued for some sort of, some sort of wrongdoing, when in reality it's just like this is what happens at a doctor's office. He might be somewhat right about that. I don't really know. It's possible that there's, there have been sort of lawsuits or something that have happened that have been completely unreasonable. I don't really know. Not to speak on that at all. Like I said, I don't think it really matters. I get where he's coming from. But I think people are going to look at this in the state of like, do you agree with what bro is saying or not? Do you agree more with her and how she feels, or more with bro and how he feels? When it's kind of besides the point. What matters here is that this was something that it was something he brought up in a serious manner, and then he got made fun of for it. His friend made fun of him and then reached out and said, "Hey, you kind of hurt my feelings there." In this situation, okay, if you like this guy, and I mean just, I don't mean like, I mean like as a friend, okay, if you appreciate his friendship, this is something you should probably apologize for. There's, if you deliberately make fun of somebody in the middle of an argument, whether or not you agree with them or disagree, it's like you made fun of him and you hurt his feelings. So if you want to keep this friendship, you probably should apologize in that situation. And it's not apologizing. This is the thing. I feel like Reddit is not going to understand, because they're stupid, like social idiots. Apologizing is not like saying, I think you were right about this and I was wrong about how I felt about it. It's not conceding an argument. It's just being like, well, I appreciate, like, I'm sorry for hurting your feelings in that situation. I won't do that again. I don't agree with you necessarily with what you're saying, but I do feel bad that I hurt your feelings. That's all apologizing is. Okay? So like I said, like, I think, yeah, you probably should apologize. Now, there's other situations, like if this is a dynamic the two of you generally have where you kind of make fun of each other, then that's fine. Then in those situations, you don't have to apologize. Then in those situations, it sometimes is conceding defeat in the argument. But like in this particular situation, it's not. Yeah, I don't know. If what he said is like offends you so much that you don't want to be friends with him anymore, then obviously you don't have to apologize. If you don't want to be his friend, you don't have to apologize. But that's kind of where I stand on this one, and I I just found it interesting because I'm like, I just know Reddit's gonna have like a really bad take on this because they're gonna hate what this guy said, and they're just gonna see it as this guy versus her, right? And she was uncomfortable at the hospital, and he's basically like being like, well, you shouldn't feel uncomfortable at the hospital. And it's like, what an asshole! What a piece of shit! This guy sucks. You should not be friends with him anymore, right? Well, that's how Reddit's gonna feel about this, right? So they're gonna be like, you're not the asshole, but in reality, you should apologize. I wouldn't say you're necessarily an asshole, but like, yeah, I don't know. You shouldn't make fun of your friends when they're talking about something like they care about. You know, it's like if you feel bad about it, like, apologize for it. I don't know. It's not conceding that, you know, whatever. I'm just relitigating what I just said. Not the asshole. Your friend is a moron for not thinking that people can feel self-conscious around other people. See what I mean? This is exactly what I mean. That's not exactly what he was saying. It's just that he's uncomfortable with the concept, the notion of it. It's like, I mean, I guess he is saying that you, like, reasonably speaking, you probably shouldn't, like, it would be better for societally, I guess, if you didn't feel uncomfortable and everything, like, if we lived in a perfect world, like, that would be awesome. If you didn't, like, that would be way better if nobody felt self-conscious about it. But I don't think he's necessarily saying that, like, her feelings are invalid. I think he's just saying, in society, if none of us ever felt uncomfortable and no male doctor ever got, you know, accused of doing something untoward that he didn't really do, society would generally be better. And that's a true fact I would agree with. So, you know, I don't know. I don't feel like you're engaging with the larger point here. You're just kind of ignoring. You're boiling it down to contextual. Like, this is basically what he's saying. He shouldn't have made this traumatic experience of yours. Okay, she also didn't say it was traumatic. I mean, she said she was uncomfortable. She said she went to the hospital, and, like, yeah, you could assume that was traumatic, but she said she was just uncomfortable. She just felt, like, awkward and uncomfortable because she was in various states of undress. She was just aware of it, and it made her feel uncomfortable, which is, you know, reasonable. It's a reasonable feeling to feel. I feel like most people would do that if they're, like, in the middle of a medical emergency and suddenly they're, like, calming down and they're suddenly aware, oh my God, my tits are out, you know? Like, that's kind of a normal feeling. Not necessarily traumatic. Okay, I feel like you're taking it a few steps further than even she took it. Making it about him and how male doctors are discriminated against. See, this is the thing. I don't think it ultimately matters how he took this discussion. Like, that's an entirely different reading of the situation. She didn't indicate that this was traumatic and it, like, really bothered her that he, like, took her trauma and, like, tried to make it a discussion about something related to male doctors. It doesn't sound like she was especially bothered that he did that. I don't know. If she was like really deeply offended by that, then, like, yeah, then that's, like, kind of a different story. She doesn't really say that she is. But she made a joke at his expense, right? Like, that was the thing. You should realize how ridiculous that is compared to what women and minorities face. Okay. just going off the beaten path into an entirely different, like, aren't you doing whatever. I'm not going to go there. I hope you're feeling better. Please know that everyone in the ER has seen just about everything and there's nothing to be self-conscious about. It sounds like she's aware of that. Sounds like she knows that. I don't know why. I don't know. It bothers me a little bit that you're claiming this to be a really traumatic experience for her. I mean, like, going to the hospital is somewhat traumatic, can be. But I don't know. It sounds like she was a trooper. It sounds like the only thing that bothered her was just being in, I don't even know if it was like fully her. Doesn't matter. Let's not talk about exactly what happened. I think the important thing is you have a friend, they bring up some topic and it's like important to them, and you're like, you make fun of them for it, and then later on they're like, hey, it kind of wasn't cool that you made fun of me for this. Like, I don't know. It would be different if she were deeply offended by what he said and why he brought that up in the middle of it. If she isn't saying that in this story, I wouldn't assume that's true. But yeah, it would be different. So yeah, I don't know. You shouldn't probably take this story to Reddit because they're just going to like decide on who is more right in this discussion. Like it's going to be a him versus you situation on whose point of view was more valid. And it's just not really, I think, the important part of this to talk about. Like you weren't necessarily being the asshole there, but if it's a friendship that's important to you, you should definitely apologize in that situation. That's all I want to say. That's all I want to say about it. So I guess I'll just keep going since I've, started this. We'll just keep doing more of these. I specifically searched for that one, so I want to go back to, just go back to the main page for today. I want to find one that looks interesting. We'll do this one. I don't know what it's going to be about, but... Am I the asshole for telling my future in-laws that my decision to change my name is none of their business and to quit the insensitive comments? I, 22 female, will be getting married next year. I'm taking my fiance's last name, and with changing my last name, I will also be petitioned the courts to change my first name. This has been a long time coming. My name doesn't hold anything positive for me, and I have been going by my almost name since I was 12, so it made sense to make the change official. The way you type is bizarre. Okay? Jesus. It's so confusing. I was abandoned as a baby, grew up in foster care, and nobody knows if I had a name before. Okay. I shouldn't laugh at that, but I'm trying to... Nobody knows if I had a name before. Okay. But I was given the name Charlotte by someone involved in my case early on, and that was the name put on my birth certificate. It never held any great meaning. Since I was never adopted, I never got named by loving parents either, and the name always just felt wrong. Weird and tied to nothing important. When I met my best friend, she told me I looked like a Kenzie, and I've been Kenzie ever since. My fiancé thinks it's great I'm making the change, but his parents are opinionated on this. They asked me before why I would rather be something cutesy like Kenzie instead of mature and pretty like Charlotte, and they told me how complicated it would be to change up my documents to reflect my new name. They told me Charlotte sounds more like a professional woman, a wife, and a mother than Kenzie. I showed them that even my work ID has Kenzie on it already because we can use preferred names at my job, but they didn't want to hear it. Yeah, I'm already like, okay, this is actually kind of a boring story, isn't it? Obviously, their opinion on you changing your name has nothing to do with them. So, like, you could do whatever the hell you want. I don't know where the controversy is on this one. Maybe changing it before the wedding might be less complicated to do. I don't know. You're changing it on the day of the wedding or like after you get married? I don't know. It ultimately doesn't really matter. When they found out I got advice on it, if it would be possible to change both names at the same time and obtain the formed. When they found out I got advice on if it would be possible to change both names at the same time and obtained the forms, they questioned my motives more and more. They told me Charlotte was lovely and it was their second choice for a girl. Again, nobody cares. My fiancé has told them repeatedly that this is not their decision, it's my name ultimately. He also reminded them that everyone calls me Kenzie already. True. Apparently that's true. But it wasn't the end, and they bring up how names are a gift of love from a parent to a child. It's a blessing to be named by parents, and they bring up far too often how much time and effort parents put into naming their kids. They know I wasn't named by a parent, that I was abandoned and named by someone who basically never saw me again. My fiancé told them that those comments needed to stop. But last weekend, when some of my fiancé's extended family were at his parents' house and we stopped by, they were talking about it again, and I might have snapped just a little and told them that my decision to change my name is none of their business, zero business of theirs, and quit with the insensitive comments about parents naming people because I was named by a random person who was part of my original abandonment case. They told me I didn't need to... I don't know why I read this whole thing. This is an open-shut case, pretty much. Obviously, yeah, they have no They have no say over it. You can do what you want. So I don't even need to read the comments on this one. I thought it would be more interesting than that. Am I the asshole for telling my cousin to stop holding a grudge over something I did when I was 7? I 17 female, have a cousin, Adriana, 30 female, who's always been seen as the black sheep of our family. She's neurodivergent and has a more alternative style. Okay. Think bright hair, tattoos, and piercings. Okay. We were never close because of the age gap, but our families wanted to be close-knit. Sure. I understand that. I had cousins like that as a kid where it's like... I had one specific family where, like, my older sister was, like, the same age as the middle child, and my younger sister was the same age as... Or no, sorry, I completely fucked that up. My older sister was the same age as the youngest in that family. But my little sister got along with the middle child more. And so the only one that, like, I could hang out with was the oldest, who was, like, way older than me. And he was also the only guy in the family, so the other two were girls. But there was such an age gap between us that it was just, like, we never, like... Most of the time we went over there, I remember, especially, like, in the later years, he was just at college. And then before that, he was just never really around. Like, he was just hanging out with friends. We never really got along. We were never super close because, obviously, there was just such a big age gap. Anyways, it's just one of those things. I don't know. I specifically relating to this. When Adrian turned 20, her family decided to visit us and celebrate her birthday together. Here's the problem. I was 7 at the time, and, well, I threw a tantrum. I wanted to go to a different restaurant than the one Adrian had picked, and I made such a fuss that everyone ended up staying home. Damn. Damn, I can imagine holding on to that one, though. I kind of get that one. It's like, it's my special birthday day. I'm turning 20, like, that's a big one, and, like, this kid cousin throws such a tantrum that everybody just stay home for her 20th birthday. Gosh. I can kind of imagine being, like, pissed off about that and just, like, holding a grudge on that one, actually. Yikes. 10 years later, like, you should probably let it go, though. But, like, I get it, bro. I kind of get that one. Later, when they got a cake for Adrian, I insisted on blowing out the candles. Oh, God, there's more. And my parents let me do it because they didn't want to deal with another meltdown and told Adrian she was too old to be making a fuss over her birthday anyway. Shit. Oh, God. I'm pissed on her behalf. I'm like, holy shit. Like, this spoiled little brat is ruining my special birthday. My special day. Oh, God. I honestly don't remember much from that day, but apparently it really hurt Adrian. She wasn't even allowed to celebrate with her friends like she wanted because she had to come on that family trip. God. Oh, man. I'm, like, relating hard to this. I get it. That shit would just, like, burn a hole in your heart. Like, damn. I'm sorry. I want to say it's not that big a deal, but yeah, that would piss me off. That would piss me off for a long time. Maybe not me specifically, because I don't personally care, but I can understand, I've never really cared that much about my birthday specifically. I know I sounded really passionate before, but, like, if this happened to me, I'd probably let it go personally. But, like, I get it. I get why you would be super pissed. Like, that's so unfair. Yeah. I get holding on to that one. Fast forward to now, and I'm applying to colleges, specifically in the state where Adrian lives. Over the years, I've come to realize just how toxic some of our family dynamics are, and it sounds like you're family spoiled the shit out of you. I'll be honest with you. They canceled her whole birthday. Like, they ruined her birthday because you threw a temper tantrum. Like, damn. That's crazy. I reached out to Adrian and apologized for what happened when I was a kid. I told her that I understand now, and I asked if she could help me navigate things as I apply to schools in her area. Adrian pretty much brushed me off and told me she's still upset about what happened on her 20th birthday. I tried to explain that I was just a kid at the time and that I'm sorry. She's holding on to the grudge like it happened yesterday. I told her she needs to let it go, but she seems really stuck on it. Bro, I'm sorry. I'm not on your side, though. Like, she doesn't owe you anything either. You know, if she's holding on to this grudge and she, like, specifically doesn't like you, she doesn't have to help you out with anything. She's not obligated to do so. You know, it sounds like she probably doesn't like you. I don't know if it's specifically because of this one specific circumstance when you were kids, like this is the thing, or if it was like just part of a larger reason she doesn't like you, but she's not obligated to help you just because she's family. You know, I get it. She, like, she's simply not. I am interested in the comments on this one. Because I feel like they're going to be on my side about this. It's like, she's not obligated to help you out. She seems really stuck on it. Is she stuck on it, or is she just, like, not like you just generally? Because I feel like, yeah, if that specific thing happened, there's probably a lot of other things. I don't mean to be a Reddit, theorist. One of those guys that just projects things or, reads too much into things or just makes shit up. But if that happened, there's probably other things that happened. Probably. Like, it's not beyond belief. My parents think she's being unreasonable, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm being insensitive to her feelings. I mean, yeah, you probably shouldn't, like, if she wants to hold on to this grudge, like, I don't know. It's been 10 years, like, yeah, reasonably, she probably should let it go if that is really, like, the major problem. But at the same time, she has no obligation to do anything for you, really. Just because she's family doesn't mean she owes you forgiveness. She owes you anything at all. Like, she just has to drop everything and, like, help you out with your situation just because she's related to you. Not really how it works. I don't know. I don't know if I'm contradicting myself. I'm weird about family sometimes, I think. Because I am like, generally, if it's a, family member, maybe you should, you should probably try to fix that relationship. But you're not obligated to. You don't have to. Let's see what the comments say. I'm interested. Fast forward to now, and I'm applying to colleges, specifically in the state where Adrian lives. Over the years, I've come to realize just how toxic some of our family dynamics are, and I reached out to Adrian, Info. If you hadn't wanted her help, would you have contacted her just to apologize? If you'd come to realize over the years how bad it was, why not apologize sooner? Why wait until you needed something from her? You have to admit the timing is all sorts of sus. I'd have a hard time believing you were sincere too. True. Yeah, she's just like, you can't come with like an apology and then be like, hey, can you like help me out with a bunch of stuff? As if like that's the impetus for you apologizing, is that you need something from her. It's very true. It would feel disingenuous. Yeah. You're the asshole because it sounds like you didn't apologize until you needed her help. When she told you she's still upset, you shrugged that off and you expect her to just get over it. You don't know how deep that wound from back then runs for... Okay. Yes, I agree. It's definitely not all your fault. You just played a part in it, but she's entitled to her feelings and you don't get to belittle them. True. Damn. I liked this story. I liked talking about this one. I do think, like, there's a way in which this story could have gone where I would be like, yeah, that's kind of silly for her to, like, hold on to that for 10 years. At the same time, like, damn, that was a really rough story to read. I would be pissed. I think a lot of people in that situation would be pissed and would probably hold a grudge about that for a while. From 20 to 30, it's like, most people kind of mellow out and they stop caring about stuff like that. You don't necessarily have to. You don't have to forgive that situation. Yeah, okay. Damn, that was a good one. Am I the asshole for snapping at a man because he touched me? I, 18 female. Okay, I shouldn't. Let's not do a voice. There's a very distinct chance she could be in the right about this. Probably is in the right. Okay, let me. Ugh. I'm not presuming that she's not in the right. Okay. I, 18 female, work as a hostess at Texas Roadhouse. During training, I was bringing 2 older men to their table, and one of them put his hand on my lower back as we were walking. Okay. You're in the right. You shouldn't do that. Turned around and told him not to touch me, and he got a little upset, but stopped touching me. It made me pretty uncomfortable, so I told my mom. She said that I should have spoke to him in a nicer tone. I told him no pretty sternly. I also told my dad and my mom's wife, and they both said I was right for speaking up. Can you capitalize your eyes, please? What's going on with that? I also told my dad and my mom's wife, and they both said I was right for speaking up. Yes. Okay. I thought this might go differently. Okay, I will say I saw the title. I'm like, this might go a little differently, but no, this is just like open shut. Like, yeah, somebody shouldn't probably touch you, especially like that. Lower back is like that's egregious. I think that's way off. Like, there'd be a difference if he, like, casually kind of, like, brushed your arm, accidentally. Like, that's definitely, like, okay, well, he probably didn't mean to do that. I would even say it's questionable if he, like, puts his hand on your shoulder or something weird, or, like, grabs your arm, or, I don't know. There's plenty of places where it's like, why? Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. That's, like, yeah, that's bad. I don't know. I was imagining a very different story. Okay, we're moving on. Okay, this one seems interesting. Am I the asshole for not telling my spouse I created an emergency fund without telling them? When first married, I sold some personal things and put the money in an emergency fund. Roof leak, job loss, emergency room visit, whatever may happen. My goal was to be able to survive a large unexpected expense or a few months of no income without going under financially because of it. Okay. For context, I had items of value I could sell, obviously, but very little cash available, and she had virtually no cash available. I sold some personal things. I had items of value I could sell, very little cash available, and she had virtually no cash available. When you first married, you had little cash, very little cash. So you made an emergency fund where you put a bunch of cash. We had plans to make enough to support ourselves with a little over the bare necessities, rent, food, utilities, etc., but not by much. I didn't tell my spouse about doing it, partly because I didn't want her to feel bad. I'd sold things that were, while not critical, I wanted. Partly because I didn't want her to be considering it when making financial decisions, since it was supposed to be an emergency-only fund, and I could see rebuying the items if we ever became financially stable and could create an emergency fund on our own later. Partly because it never touched out our joint income or expenses, normal accounts, and for all intents and purposes, would not impact our shared finances if not used. Sure. This may not need to play into your response much, but she was raised making poor financial decisions, not necessarily her fault. You only know what you know. I'm still worried about how she may feel or react knowing there was substantial money that could be quickly accessed. Other detail. We have shared finances and try to make joint decisions for large purchases. It came up recently. When it came up, she felt that I had kept extensive financial secrets, failed to be appropriately honest and transparent, made decisions on her behalf, showed I didn't believe in her ability to make good financial choices, disrespected her, and she's generally crushed and says she can't trust me. I was not malicious, and I had no negative or bad intentions. However, I did keep it from her, and it was partly because her history prior to and since has shown poor financial choices, as she claims. Am I the asshole for not telling my spouse I created and didn't disclose an emergency fund with my personal items? Okay. Dang. Okay. This is kind of a tough one to speak on. Like, I understand why you did it. And I understand, like, it being a thing. Like, you're not touching the account, so you don't see anything wrong with it. Like, the account just being there. You don't want... Okay. So you don't want her financial decisions to factor into the fact that you sold some personal items. I think that's a very, like, I get that, but I don't know. I don't think that's a good enough reason to, like, keep it from her. Like, it seems like a very, like, self-righteous sort of, like, reasoning there. Well, I just didn't tell you because I didn't want you to be worried. It's like, okay, that's not really a good way to reason stuff out like that. Now, the other part is you don't really trust her. Yeah, it sounds like, I don't know. There's a couple ways you could go about this, because if it's not something you've generally even really thought about, like, you are giving reasons as to why you didn't tell her. But if it's something like you genuinely just didn't think it was important, like, you know, it's just like, well, this is a count there, and I just don't want her to worry about it. I don't know. I guess how I feel about this is you probably should have told her about it. I don't think there's, like, a good reason not to tell her about it that I can think of. Like, the reason you gave, they're not really good reasons. The other one is, like, just, I feel like it's implied. I don't know if he's really saying this. Oh, yeah, but I still worried about how she may feel or react knowing there was substantial money that could be quickly accessed. It seems like with this, he's implying that he was also worried she might try to spend some of the money in that account if she knew about it. If she knew that there was a bunch of money that was just tucked away that they had access to. He was worried she might try to spend it, which kind of, you know, leans into what she's saying here. You made decisions on her behalf. You weren't appropriately honest and transparent. Showed you don't believe in her ability to make good financial choices. You did do that. You disrespected her. True. She's generally crushed and said she can't trust me. I mean, the things that she's saying are true. Like, her judgment on this, do you not trust the judgment here that she's making? Because all of these things, if you look at them individually, you did do all of these things. So, like, is that not enough for you? You're like, yeah, but maybe she's wrong about, I don't know, her feeling about all of these things. What is your issue? What is your deal here? I don't know. How does your brain work that you don't, like, listen to all of these things? You heard them. You even reiterated them to us, and you're like, still not sure if you did anything wrong. Like, you did all those things. Is she not right to feel, like, upset about that? I think she is. She's right. If she's correct, and you believe her to be correct, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, I get it. You're not malicious, and you had no negative or bad intentions. That's true, and that's fine. But, you know, the what do they say? The path to evil is paved with good intentions, or something like that. It's like, you might have intended nothing bad or negative, but all these things she said she's right about. So, like, yeah, you kind of are the asshole there. You didn't trust her. You didn't trust her with it, and you should have. Like, I don't know. You can set it up and, like, early on kind of be like, well, I don't, like, you know, I'll just, you know, this will just be here, and, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like you don't have to tell her right away, but you should at some point. Definitely tell her about it. In fact, you know, I might even say that you probably should have just told her from the beginning. I don't even think there's, like, a really good reason to keep it from her, honestly. Like, I don't think so. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, if you're kind of worried she's going to spend the money, like, I'm like, that's the only thing where I'm like, I might do the same thing if I'm, like, concerned she's going to spend the money. I might not tell her about it right away, but it's definitely, like, not good logic or reasoning. It's definitely, like, kind of, you know, you probably should tell her about it. Okay, moving on. Next. Actually, let's read a comment. Let's see what the comments say. No, the money was your money from selling. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. The money was your money from selling personal items, and what to do with it was your choice. You made the choice not to tell her about it for sound reasons, which she continued to demonstrate. For sound reasons. We've decided his reasoning was sound. Although you don't say so, I'm going to assume that there were no situations that cropped up in the intervening time where using that money could have made a big difference to your life. On the other hand, it is completely reasonable for your wife to feel hurt. Okay. So we're acknowledging that her feelings are completely valid. Okay. And angry because she thought you were both sharing all of your financial information and decisions, and you weren't. Okay, so he decided that this is no assholes here, that neither of you were really wrong in this situation. Okay, I have like a soft agreement with this generally, but I don't know. The more I think about his reasoning, like I don't think it's a good thing to say the money was your money from selling personal items. That's just not, like, it's a marriage. Like, you know, in marriages, your stuff is your stuff. It's both of you, like, you share stuff, right? It's not just this is my stuff, this is your stuff. It's like you have joint incomes, you know, you join everything, you share things. Everything is everybody's in that, right? It's just kind of how that works. You don't get to be like, I sold a bunch of stuff and put it in an account and like this is just my money here. And it doesn't really sound like OB is trying to say it was his money, right? So I don't even think he's thinking of it that way. He is thinking of it as an emergency fund, like it is their money if they need it. But I can also see the other side of the argument where it's like, is it a big deal if like I go to GameStop and I sell all my like I'm married, I go to GameStop and I sell my video game collection and suddenly I have a bunch of money and I don't tell my wife about it? Is that a big deal? Like, okay, I put all that money in my personal, like, you know, maybe we don't have a joint account, maybe we do, maybe we don't, maybe we both have personal accounts, I put that money into my personal accounts, like, you know, I think that's a different thing because you're calling it your personal money, but he put the money into the account specifically as an emergency fund, so I feel like that significantly kind of changes it, where it's like, it's not that he was putting it in as like personal money. That would be a whole other thing, though, right? If you had like a personal account that you hid from your wife that wasn't an emergency fund, but was just specifically like, no, this is my money. This is the money that I've decided is mine and not yours. Like, that would be a crazy thing to do if you hadn't discussed that with your wife, that like you're gonna do that and that you both can do that and that's okay. Like, that would be kind of crazy, right? That would be like a problem. I don't know. Like, I get the way you're looking at this, but I also don't think the sound reasons for not telling her were all that sound, really. I feel like that's a big part of your argument here, and I don't really agree with that. And saying the money was your money from selling personal items is just not a good way to think of that, because it's not even how OP was thinking about it, and it would be... I feel like that would make it even worse if he was doing that. Just like, you know, hiding a bunch of stuff away so that it's like, this is my money over here. You don't get to touch it. I don't know. This is a weird one. It's a weird one. It's a little confusing. It could go both ways on it, but that's how I'm landing on that. Ooh, okay. This one seems interesting. Am I the asshole bus stop parents are using our private drive as a playground? Just before I even read this, I want to say when I was a kid, the bus stop was one person's yard. There were two, because when I went to high school, the bus stop was a person's driveway across the street from where it was when I was in like elementary school. When I was in elementary school, it was like the corner, and it was like a person's yard, and everybody just stood around there in the mornings, and like there was a tree, and I remember us like playing in the tree in the mornings. Like, it's just if this is gonna go in a certain direction, okay, I'm gonna probably side with the, you know, I think it's just, this happens. There's a place that gets designated as the bus stop. It's where the kids get picked up, and kids are kids, you know, like they're gonna do what they're gonna do. I don't know. Let's read. I live on a private drive containing 3 homes on. I live on a private drive containing 3 homes on, and have been dealing with parents and their children issues over the past 3 years. Many of the issues deal with the children using the private drive as a playground and trespassing into my property, neighbors' properties, and the parents allowing this behavior. Parents and children also block access to the private drive daily on school days in the mornings and afternoons when I'm typically leaving and returning for work. It can sometimes take a few minutes for the parents and waiting children to move in order for me to enter and exit my property. Okay. Already, I guess I can kind of see where this is going, and I do side with you for sure. Like, if these kids are specifically like, if they're blocking you in, that's a problem. If they do that consistently, that's a problem. Like, you should be able to have that conversation with them and say, hey, I get you got to wait for the bus, and this is the bus waiting spot, but like, I got to be able to get out of my driving. I got to be able to get out of my driveway. Now, are you always going to be able to have control over children? No, that's difficult. That's kind of a difficulty. How it depends, I guess, how old the kids are. Because if they're like high school kids, you can kind of just like talk to them and be like, hey, I don't know what you would do. What could you really do? I'm trying to think of if there's like a way you could threaten them and be like, I'm gonna call the police if you don't, like, stay on one side and don't block me in and don't do this specific stuff. Usually high school students aren't sitting there with their parents. If the parents are there, then it's going to be parents, like, they're going to be like young. They're going to be like early elementary school age, more than likely, which is pretty young. Those kids may be hard to control. Not that I'm siding with them. The parents should be able to control your kids, and it shouldn't be like a super inconvenience for you. They should be able to, say, okay, kids, don't go into this. Don't try to jump this guy's fence and jump into his yard where his dogs are. Like, that shouldn't be hard to control. And yeah, if he's being blocked into his driveway, that sucks. And like, you should definitely be able to do something about that. Just, I don't know, just tell them like where they're allowed to be. Like, just be over here. So it can sometimes take a few minutes for the parents and waiting children to move. Okay, it doesn't sound like maybe that's, I don't know, so bad. I don't know, because I'd have to like look at how this looks, I guess. Like, if it's a few minutes, I mean, maybe it's just like, it is like kind of like they have to get out of the way. Like, there's nowhere for them to be that's not going to be in the way, but they can kind of like move around to, I don't know. I'm trying to imagine this. I don't know. In waiting children to move in order for me to enter and exit my property, parents and children, over 12 parents and around 25 children. What? That's more than 2 children each for each parent. Am I to assume when you talk about 12 parents, some of these are couples? Like, a parent is a dad and a father. If it's 2 kids for every one parent, some of those parents are going to be paired couples. So, like, many of these families have at least 3 children. That's a ton of children. That's a ton of children and a ton of parents. 12 parents? Also typically spend, 30 minutes or over an hour using the private drive as a playground. Yeah. I mean, yeah. More of a problem in the afternoon. Oh. Right. Yeah, because if you have that many kids in the neighborhood, of course they're going to be running all over the fucking place. They're not even going to give a shit where they are. Which I find concerning, since myself and neighbors are legally responsible for the private drive and worry about possible accidents or injuries. Would you be legally responsible? Like, what are we talking about exactly? Like, if a kid trips and skins his knee in, like, your driveway, you think you're going to be legally responsible for that? Because I feel like I don't think that's, like, how would you even be? Like, if they hurt themselves on your property, is it, would that be a legal responsibility you would have to worry about? I can't imagine. I've been, when I was a kid, I got hurt so much in plenty of places that weren't my parents' house. And I definitely we weren't going around suing everybody whose property I got hurt on. Jesus. I mean, if I get seriously injured, you might consider it for sure. But yeah, I don't think that's like a big problem you have to think about. Also, in years past, we've had multiple problems with the children using our garage door as a football and soccer goal, but seem to have worked those issues out with the parents in past years. Okay, cool. Another issue is the end of the year massive water balloon party that the parents throw for their children. I've tried talking with parents a few times over the years about not using the private drive as a standing point and playground, but have been mostly ignored. Damn. Dude, you sound like I'm sorry to say this, but you sound like the kind of party pooper of the neighborhood. You've got like 25 kids in this neighborhood. I'm picturing like a cul-de-sac, and I'm picturing this guy being like flat in the middle of the cul-de-sac. You know, where it's like all the kids sort of converge on this specific guy's driveway, and he's the only one that like has no kids. You know, and he's staring out his window like Clint Eastwood in like Gran Torino. It's like, yeah, get these fucking kids off my lawn. Glaring at these kids all hours of the day as they're playing on his property. I'm sorry. Maybe you should move. I don't know how you avoid anything at all. Like, how do you avoid, like, I don't know. You're gonna have to concede on a lot of this stuff, I feel like. Kids are kids. They're gonna be rambunctious. Like, I get it. It's annoying when you have to deal with kids that aren't yours. You know? And they're making a ruckus. And they're doing all sorts of crazy shenanigans. And you're like, I don't like this. I don't like this. They're always bothering me. They're always... They won't leave me alone. The only thing I'm, like, really bothered by so far, I think, is the trying to get out. Like, if you're being blocked from getting out of your home, to getting out to work in the morning because there's a bunch of people in your way, like, that's the only thing I would be like super egregious so far. Like, I'd be concerned if like the kids, if they're getting into stuff that's like your property, if they're like, you know, like I said, if they're like jumping the fence into your backyard and like futzing around back there, you know, that's a problem. You should probably have a conversation with the parents about, for sure. Them just being on your front yard, I mean, that sucks, but I'm like, gosh, I don't know. I feel like you'd have to, like, I'd have to let that one go. I feel like you just have to. Because they're just going to do that. They're just going to do that, and it's like, why even, unless you have something in your front yard that you really don't want them messing with. I don't know. I feel like you'd have to let that one go. I feel like it's not really a good concern. The worried about accidents or injuries in your yard, I don't think that's a thing that would ever affect you ever. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of somebody tripping and falling in somebody else's driveway and then, like, you know, suing that person. I don't know. Like, I guess you could make an argument for it if, like, there was a, you know, it wasn't, like, properly paved or something, but I don't know. I think that's a ridiculous thought. It sounds like the garage door is a football and soccer goal. You fixed that issue, which is good. So you were able to make that change. That one's egregious, so I'm glad you were able to fix that one. That would have been a problem if they were still doing that, for sure. And the massive water balloon party... Don't use the private drive as a standing point. Yeah, I don't know. When I get to this, I'm thinking to myself, like, are they... Like, are you just in the middle? Like, with no kids? You're just in the middle. Your house is, like, situated here, so the water balloon fight just kind of convulges. That's not the word. Onto your property, and it just happens. The only thing that annoys me about that, I mean, it's once a year, so I'd be like, yeah, you just go ahead, have fun, kids. But the only thing that would bother me about that is that water balloon fights create a lot of balloon remnants, and, like, I would hope they would clean that shit up and not just leave a bunch of, like, balloon remnants on my property. I'd be pissed about that. But yeah, I don't know if it's like a once a year thing and it's like everybody's out there having fun. Like, why rain on their parade unless they're not going to pick up? Like, I would just make it clear to them, like, go ahead. Like, that's fine. But, like, just clean up the balloons after the fact. Like, I don't want to have to clean up a bunch of balloons when this doesn't have anything to do with me. Right? Mostly ignored. Again, I tried talking to parents yesterday and was told that I was ruining their children's childhoods by asking that they not use the private drive as a playground. They would continue to do as they please. I don't know. I'm trying to imagine the exact, like, he has to be, like, in the middle, right? It's gonna, like, the only way I would look at this is if he's like kind of off to the side where it's like his place is like easily avoidable. But it sounds like it's probably not. It's probably like right smack dab in the middle of everything in order for them to like not tell their kids to not in order for them to enforce this, they'd have to basically keep their kids from having any fun at all. Or like, I guess like I'd have to know exactly how this looks, man. Because I'm like, I was imagining a cul-de-sac, but it's a private drive. He lives on a private drive containing 3 homes. So, okay, so a private drive is actually just like a driveway that goes up. It's just like a long driveway. I assume it goes somewhere. It's not really like a cul-de-sac, but depending on how that works. There's 3 houses. Wait, how are they 3 houses but 12 parents? Containing 3 homes. This is so hard to picture in my head. Like, I don't know. There's a way in which this is, like, annoying for him, and I would be completely on his side. But the way I'm imagining this, he just has, like, a terribly inconveniently placed home, and, like, I feel like it's probably impossible for everybody. He obviously doesn't own the whole private drive. Obviously. There's 3 houses using the private drive. It's not just his. So I don't think he can necessarily enforce how the private drive is used altogether. I don't know. This is sounding ridiculous. Man, I really want to know how exactly this looks. But like now I'm thinking like, no, it's even more egregious for him to try to enforce how they use the driveway if it's shared by 3 houses. Before I was imagining a cul-de-sac, and I'm like, oh, it's just like a driveway leading to his house. But no, it's a driveway leading to 3 different houses, and he's complaining about them using that as a playground. It's not just yours. And they will continue to do as they please. Earlier in the week, I reached out to the bus coordinator, and they've moved the pickup and drop-off further back, but this has not fixed any of the issues. I reached out by email to school's principal this morning. I don't want to involve local law enforcement. I don't think the school's principal can really do anything, right? Like, I think isn't the bus company, like, completely separate? Like, I don't think they actually, I don't know how much they actually have to do with the, like, school. I don't think the principal, like, is in charge of what the buses do. I don't know. It could be the case. He might have some say in that, but I don't want to involve local law enforcement. After yesterday's interaction with the parents, if it continues this afternoon, I would strongly be considering it. Curious to see if I'm the asshole here and what people think I should do. Gates and signs are prohibited by our homeowners association. This is going to change dramatically, I think, depending on how this looks IRL. If you could draw a picture, that would really help me, but I feel like I've basically given my opinion on this. It's not just his driveway, it sounds like, so that's completely not the asshole. The safety of the children first and foremost, but also for the property owners and their potential liability and damage to their property is at hand. Is that what we're worried about? Damage to the property? Is that what we were worried about? Is that what we're trying to talk about? Worry about possible accidents or injuries. Are you responsible? Like, he's part of a homeowners association, which is true, which does kind of recontextualize a little bit. Like, if his property is damaged, that can get him in trouble with his HOA, which would be a problem, for sure. I could see that side of it. If it's in a singular email, reach back to the bus coordinator, school superintendent, school principal, chief of police, and voice your concerns and your request for the movement of the bus stop to a location that does not hinder the use of your property, does not put you and your neighbors in jeopardy for any injuries sustained by children using properties, unauthorized, and puts the children in danger. Is this really a thing? Are you really liable for kids being hurt on your property just by being on your property? Like, if a kid trips and falls, am I liable for that? Is that a thing? Like, that's blowing my mind. If that's crazy. I can't imagine anybody actually making actually trying to sue you over something like that. And puts the children in danger. Do not ask, demand that this be changed as the parents have not heeded your request, and follow up every 2 days until you get satisfaction. I don't know. I might agree with this depending on the... Like, I might agree depending on the exact situation here. If I imagine it in a super specific way, I'd have to see it. I'd really have to see it. Because otherwise, I don't know. Otherwise, I don't really know. Not the asshole. It's not really up to the parents. Keep pushing the bus coordinator of the school for changes. You're doing the right thing. Listen, kids will be kids, but it seems like you're disrespecting private property and littering extensively. It doesn't even say that. I was looking for that. I was looking for him to say it's littering extensively. He never freaking said that. This is, I can't... This shit bothers me. When somebody, like, deliberately reads something into this that's not even there, just, like, makes some shit up. Like, nowhere in the post did he say anything about littering extensively. And you just, like, brought that up out of nowhere. You just pulled that out of your brain. It's massive projection. I brought up the idea that, like, it's possible if the balloon fight, that there could be balloon remnants in his yard that he would have to clean up. He never said anything about that, though. I was paying attention. If he had said something about it, I would have seen it. So I'm like, it annoys me. Like, I don't know why you would read that in if it's not something OP said. God. It annoys... Why does this annoy me so much? It annoys me so much. Like, he didn't say that. Not the asshole just use a garden hose. Time for some 2 live crew. Okay, it seems like I'm kind of in the minority here. The way I'm imagining it, it's like, it's a shared driveway, right? And it's like, yeah, I guess I'm imagining he's in the middle, and that's why they're kind of on his property every now and again, but, like, it's really going to depend on the way the property looks, the way it's set up. It's like, yeah, he's got a right to not be bothered by kids constantly on his property, for sure. But there's the circumstances in which it does kind of become unavoidable. In which case, like, what do you do? Like, are you still not entitled to your private property? Like, for sure. I don't know. Sometimes you do have to just concede to shit that you might not particularly like, but it's just easier. It's just easier to just let it go because the problem is just really not going to solve itself. I feel like a lot of people, they were bringing up the bus thing. I think that's true. I think I'd agree with that. The fact of the matter being, like, you can change where the bus stop is. You can make a big stink about that and be like, here, move the bus stop. And, like, that's all if you do that, at least we've solved that problem. Everything else, though, I feel like isn't going to be solved by the bus stop being solved. That's just one of the problems. And, like, yeah, I guess you're entitled to be able to not be bothered by that for sure. But yeah, kids are going to be kids. And sometimes they're going to run around on their property. I think there's definitely a part of your property you can control, but sometimes it's going to be hard to do that. Sometimes it's going to be difficult to do. I don't know. That's all I would say. All right. Well, I guess we'll end the story that's there. I guess we'll end it for today. These were some interesting ones. I really should probably do this more because the last one I recorded, I just, like, did the top, like, 4 or whatever. I tried to search a little harder for some interesting ones, and these were pretty interesting to talk about. All right, well, if you enjoyed this, let me know. I will be around, probably posting more of these from time to time whenever I feel like it. So, yeah, goodbye.